Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. My name is Samantha Brooke and I'm here to guide you through your yin practice. Thank you so much for joining me on your mats today, and thank you so much for showing up for yourself. For our yin practice, you're more than welcome to use some blocks or some pillows or even a blanket if it's a little bit cold. I want you to stay as warm and as cozy and as comfortable as possible. Yin, as much as it's a physical practice, it's also just a moment to go inwards, to check in, how you're doing. Notice where your body's holding tension. Notice where you can use your breath to release. All right, if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's begin. We're going to start in a child's pose. All right, so we begin by having our knees out wide, bringing your big toes into touch, bringing the hips onto the heels, and then stretching the arms forward. Belly is soft and relaxed here. Now, if you would like to use a pillow as a prop, please bring one over here just so that your belly and your chest can relax. Or if your hips aren't touching your heels, you're more than welcome to bring the pillow there. Okay, so we extend our fingertips forward. And I want you to begin to become conscious of what's happening in your back. Notice if your shoulders are scrunched up towards your ears. We want to draw them back and down, creating as much space as possible. Now begin to focus on your fingers. Spread them out wide like starfishes. Starting to tap into your breath, that gorgeous Ujjayi breath. It has an oceanic sound to it. Husky. Breathing deep. And as you exhale, imagine as if someone's pressing on your hips and drawing them back down towards your heels, getting a little bit more comfortable in this pose. Consciously breathing, consciously checking in. What's happening in the body? What's happening in the mind? Can you stretch a little deeper, perhaps walking your fingertips more forward? Can you draw your hips back, elongating the spine, as if someone's gently pulling your fingers forward? Relaxing the forehead on the mat. And if you would like, you can just nod the head yes and no. Just tapping into that third eye center. Once again, the breath is so important here. Your breath is your guide. Send it where it needs to go. Discover what your body is trying to tell you. Melting the heart towards the mat. We've got another 20 seconds here. Maybe you want to bring a little bit of movement now into your hips, a little rock. Gently side to side. Moving into those gorgeous hip bones, the emotional store cases or suitcases of the body. 5 more deep breaths in through the nose. Let it out in a sigh. Melting down, keep breathing. Softening, always softening. All right, our transition from child's pose is to simply walk the hands towards the knees, keeping the elbows bent, and then see if you can bring the knees in towards one another, wrapping the arms around the body in an embryo pose, similar to child's pose in its posture, but quite different. I want you to round the shoulders over the body like a blanket, covering you, protecting you. If your fingers can join, perhaps you want to interlace them, or just allow them to relax alongside the body. Conscious breathing. Where does your mind go when you find yourself in stillness? Come back, come back, come back. Deep breath in. Soften, soften, soften. Allow the shoulders to become heavy. You're safe here. This is your home base. Any time in life that you get overwhelmed or there are a lot of challenges coming your way, take a moment to recenter. take a moment to come here. We've got 5 more deep breaths. If you would like a little bit of an extended shoulder stretch, perhaps you want to interlace your fingers at the base of the spine, stretching out through the elbows, and then gently lifting the hands above the body. Using your breaths long and steady for 3, for 2, for 1. Gently, if your hands were lifted, allow them to melt back onto the mat, planting them flat on either sides of the knees, tucking the chin, and then rolling up through the spine, very, very slowly. We're not rushing in yin. There's nowhere for us to go. There's no final destination. I want you to be here and now. All right, we're moving into our next posture now. It's going to be on the belly. So remember, use your support where you need it. Okay, we're coming into Sphinx Pose now. So we're going to extend the legs down, planting the elbows in almost like a number 11-like shape. I want you to be wary of your hands, separating the fingers, rooting through the palms of your hands. Then I want your gaze to be forward, and always remember to check those shoulders. We don't want any bunching. We rather want to draw them back in a regal-like pose. Your toenails are plugged into the mat. The buttocks is slightly tucked but relaxed. And then I want you to imagine that you're drawing the floor towards you, almost energetically rather than physically. We're going to be opening up the chest here, breathing deep. Sphinx Pose is always a little bit mischievous because it looks quite simple, but in holding it, you can really start to check in with the tension in your body. You can really start to notice, perhaps even there's a little bit of a shake there. Breathe through the holding. In yin, we really start to tap into the deep cellular memory of the cells and the tissues of the muscles. And that's why we hold these poses for a little bit longer than usual, because it really allows us to extend our journey inwards. Breathing deep. Stay here, stay present. If you would like to move the neck a little bit, you're more than welcome to peek over your right shoulder. Hello. Come back to center. Peek over the left shoulder. Inhale back through to center. Maybe you want to gaze up and come back through to center. Breathe here. The arms might start to have a little bit of a challenge. If you're not used to this pose, stay with it, stick with it. We're releasing tension in the back. We're strengthening our muscles. We're restoring the equilibrium in our body. Holding space for yourself, just to exist. No pressure, no end goal. Just be. We've got 3, 2, and 1. Gently come down, bringing the elbows out, planting one palm in front of the other or on top of the other, and then placing your forehead onto your palms, bringing your big toes to touch, and then just gently wagging the hips from side to side, relaxing the base of the spine, allowing whatever energy that we have released to start to move up and out of the body. Gorgeous. From here, we're going to separate the feet once again, pressing into the hands. All right, so you have 2 options here. You can come back into Sphinx, or you can take your seal pose or baby cobra with bent elbows, or if the lower back permits it, let's see if we can start to lengthen out through the arms. Once again, check in with the shoulders. We really want to avoid sinking into the shoulders and bunching them up. I want you to focus on pressing through the hands. Watch this. And we draw them back and down. Breathing deeply. Softening even in the still strong poses. Hold it, stay with it, breathe for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. With control and presence, start to bend the elbows and melt down onto the mat. Once again, bringing the elbows out and then placing one palm in front of the next, bringing the forehead onto the hands, big toes to touch, and then just give those hips a little wiggle. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Beautiful. All right, if you'd like to use a pillow here, you're more than welcome. We're going to move into half frog pose in preparation for full frog pose. If full frog is not available for you, just simply double up on each side with the half frog. All right, so we're either going to bring our hands down or we bring them alongside the body, whatever feels the most comfortable, okay? We're going to start to open the hips. And I want you to imagine that there's a string coming out of the top of your right knee, and very, very slowly, like a puppeteer, we'll gently start to lift that string up. All right, so this is going to be really important. Your knee is bent and it's in a 90-degree angle, and your right foot is flexed. So we're really going to start to open up this right hip. What I want you to be aware of is the difference on each side, all right? Because each side represents different aspects of our being. One being the masculine, one being the feminine, the right and the left side of the brain. Notice where there might be blocks or tension or what's happening on each side. We're going to breathe here and allow that right hip to melt into the mat. Now remember, I want you to ask yourself the question as you lie here. Where can I soften? Perhaps my shoulders have tightened a little bit, or maybe even the jaw. Check in with the body as a whole as we hold each posture. Breathing deeply and allow the belly to just soften. Specifically as women, so many of us actually walk around holding in our stomachs. We don't even realize it, but we create so much tension and contraction in our solar plexus and sacral chakra area. And this yin practice is an opportunity to just let go, to just be in your body without trying to change it or judge it or make it be anything other than what it is. We've got 10 more breaths here. Feeling the weight of the body supported by the earth. And I want you to check in now if we can go a little bit deeper on the right-hand side. Let's see if we can bring the knee up a little bit more. And even if you would like, you can put a little bit of pressure into that right hip and just start to feel it out. With everything that we do in yin, every pose is kind of preparation for the next. And we never want to be jolting or moving into something that's too hard on the body. Everything is just a gentle step into the next direction. For 3, for 2, and for 1. Beautiful. Placing the right hand down and extending that right leg back. Perhaps just giving those hips a little shake once again. And then I'm going to change sides for you guys. We're going to be doing the left-hand side. Using your pillow once again, coming onto your belly, finding your arm position that works best for you. Remember, we want to prioritize support, most importantly. All right. From here, we're going to bring that left knee up, remember, like a puppet string. And then we're going to have that in that 90-degree angle. It's very important that you're conscious of the angle to avoid injury in the knee and the hip. Belly is relaxed, all right? So now I can immediately feel a difference from the right to the left side. It sometimes takes a little bit of practice to get to know your body and why maybe there's a little bit of tension on one side other than the other. But that's the beauty of this practice. It's a practice. You don't have to get there immediately. You just have to consistently show up. So softening into that left side, breathing deep. And like I said, this is preparation for full froggy pose. And to be honest with you, frog pose often brings up a lot of resistance for a lot of practitioners because it doesn't feel so great. It feels quite uncomfortable. So I always advise that when we do practice frog, you kind of give yourself a little bit of a warm-up. That's why this half frog is really important, okay? And remember, just as we did on the right-hand side, we just want to start to get into that hip. Give it a little bit of love. Remember, when we're holding these yin poses, we are releasing stored energy in the body. So ask yourself, how can I facilitate this release? Perhaps with the breath, perhaps with some slow, soft self-massage. This is about connection, guys. Stay with it. For 3, for 2, and for 1. Gently bring your left hand back onto the mat and extend your left leg back, big toes to touch, and then you can just give those hips a little wiggle. All right, beautiful. We're going to start to prep for full foggy pose. And like I said, if this pose is too much for you, or if you're not able to hold it as long as you would like to, just back off a little bit. You'll be surprised what happens when there's a difficult asana, and then you simply just give your body just a little bit of a break, and then you come back into it. All right, it's almost like a flirting kind of situation. You like flirt towards the pose, and then you come back. So I really suggest you use pillows for this, especially if you're a beginner practitioner. We want to bring the pillows as a support for each knee. It's not imperative, but it really does help because, like I said, this posture is not the most comfortable one that you can do. So we want to bring a knee onto each pillow, creating a strong foundation, flexing both feet. Now this might be exactly where you stop today. That's okay. Hold yourself. Perhaps you need another pillow here. If possible, let's start to go a little deeper, melting towards the floor, relaxing the neck. And then this is completely up to you. You can customize this pose. I like to bring a little bit of movement here, just a little bit, to start getting into the juiciness of the hips. And then as I do that, I can start to separate my knees just a little bit more as I drop the hips and get deep into that. So now I can feel kind of that point of resistance where it's not quite pain, but there's a little bit of like a contraction or a little bit of tense energy there. So always be aware in your yin pose that when we are exploring the deeper depths of postures, they can sometimes feel like there's some resistance or like, oh, I don't know if I want to go there. First of all, trust your body. But second of all, always get curious about that resistance. If it's painful, step away. If it's a little bit of a sharp kind of a pain or a little bit of a tense pain, just see if you can breathe through it. All right, we're here for about another minute. Stay with me if you can. Breathing deep, and I want you to send the breath into the hips. Imagine the hips feeling and receiving that gorgeous breath. And if possible, sink a little deeper now, breathing. So I've said this previously, but it's worth noting again, is that our hips are literally like the emotional suitcases of the body. Specifically for women, we store a lot of emotion in our hips. So when you find yourself in these poses that are releasing, be aware of what comes up. Perhaps a little bit of anger, perhaps a little bit of sadness. I'm not sure if joy has ever come up for me in frog, but that's just maybe the pose. All right, softening here for 10, 9, 8, conscious breathing. Tiptoeing towards the edge now. I can feel my resistance building. I can feel the mind starting to chatter. It's time to get out of this pose. Breathing deep for 3, for 2, and for 1. All right, just as you got into it really carefully, you've got to come out of it really carefully. Press your hands into the floor, lift the body up, and then start with one knee, bringing the knee onto the mat, and start with the other knee, bringing the other knee onto the mat, and just find yourself in a comfortable seat, preferably on your heels or on your bum, whatever works for you. We're just taking a few deep breaths here, coming back into the body. And remember now, we're releasing things. Be aware, what's coming up? What's coming up for you? Gorgeous. We're going to find our way into tabletop pose now. We've got our shoulders stacked over our wrists and our hips stacked directly over our knees. Engaging the core ever so slightly, we've already started to warm up the back with our Sphinx and seal pose. Now let's move in through a few cat-cows. Now with a vinyasa class, we kind of move through them quite luxuriously, but also at quite a pace. I want you to really indulge in this movement. Allow it to become slow and juicy. I want you to feel each vertebra moving in a wave-like motion. And then we're going to merge or marry breath with movement. And that's where this becomes really, really magical. All right, inhale, dropping the belly, scooping the heart forwards. Look up. Exhale, slowly, tuck the chin first, round through the spine, navel draws in, feeling those shoulder blades expand as you press up through the hands. Inhale, let's open the heart. Exhale. Strong in your rounding. Now you can take this at whatever pace works for you, but I always find that if I've been sitting at a desk for a long time, I just do 5 minutes of cat-cow, and it's actually incredible what begins to happen to the body. It's so, so healing, releasing of tension, juicy, slow, indulgent movement. We've got 3 more, combining that breath with movement. And up we go, navel to spine. Last round. Exhale, bring it all in. Gorgeous. We're coming back into a neutral spine, flat spine, pressing into the left hand. Allow the right fingertips to reach up towards the sky. And perhaps you want to rotate your wrist one way and then the other. And then we're going to lift those fingertips up, opening up that right shoulder. And we're going to thread the needle. Right arm underneath the left arm, right ear to the mat. Extend your left fingertips forward. Watch your hips. We want to square off the hips. Breathing deeply here. We're tapping into the shoulders now, becoming conscious of the body's position, noticing where the hips kind of go off balance to kind of accommodate the pose. Come back into alignment, squaring them off. If you're an advanced practitioner or feeling super loosey-goosey today, bring your left hand to your right hip and then take a peek over that left shoulder. Oh, that feels so wonderful. Last 3. Last 2. And 1. Unhook your hand if it was there. Plant the left hand down. Press into the left hand. And then gently allow that right arm to swing all the way up and plant it down. Beautiful. Coming back into that neutral spine. Inhale, reach the left fingertips up towards the sky as you open up, rotating the wrist one way. Strong release, rotating the other. And then we're going to do what we did on the other side. We're going to thread the needle all the way through, placing that left ear onto the mat. Once again, if you would like to take a bind, please do so. The right hand hooks onto the left hip, feeling that opening. Words like expansion, receptivity, gathering. We're gathering information while we're releasing it. We're receiving what this posture has to give us. Watch the hips. Notice where they compensate. We all have that. Yoga is such a gift to the body. Just opening up these energy channels is so, so vital for our overall health and well-being. Last 3. Last 2. Unhook the hand if you had it hooked onto the hip. Press into the right palms and then allow that left hand to rise all the way up. Gorgeous. And then place it down and then walk the hands towards the knees and come back to sit on the hips. Palms facing upwards in a gesture to receive. Breathe deep. Beautiful. We're going to come into our next pose, which is Malasana. Malasana goddess squat. All right, so this is one of my most favorite poses. It's super grounding. We want to bring the feet out, toes pointing out, and the knees out. Now, for some people, dropping the hips all the way down towards the heels is not really an option. And that's okay. You need to meet your body where your body's at today. So if your hips need to rise a little bit, so be it. If you need to just come into a deep squat, that's also okay. Meet your body where it's at. So we're rooting down through the heels. Now this is where it gets fun and interesting. Pressing the elbows into the knees, hands come in together, joining right hemisphere and left hemisphere of the brain. I want you to notice where there's a dip, either in the shoulders or the hips, all right? So the hips are square and aligned, gently pressing the elbows in towards the inner knees and lifting up through the crown of the head. Feeling this. Once again, you're more than welcome to bring a little bit of intuitive movement into this. This is your practice, your playtime. You get to decide. And then for those of you that would like to expand in your Malasana, perhaps you'd like to expand in your shoulders or do a bind, you've got a few options. One of them is to extend the right fingertips out, coming onto like the tips of the fingers like a little tent. And then we're going to reach backwards with the left. So as you can see, I'm opening up the body. Now, if this feels super easy for you and you want to take it up a notch, we take a bind, looking over that left shoulder, staying in your Malasana goddess squat. Taking it to the other side, left fingertips come down onto the tips of the fingers, reaching the right arm back. And perhaps a bind is available for you today. And for the rest of us, we come into our center line. You know, in modern days, we hardly ever bring our hips below our knees. We often get straight out of bed, onto a chair, into the car, onto a desk, sitting at a chair again, coming back home, getting into bed. But our ancestors and in ancient times would cook and wash and gather in this goddess squat. It's really, really important for us to be able to find ourselves in these wonderful poses. It's really good for the body. Taking a few more deep breaths here. You can do it. Be aware of resistance. It's okay. Sit with it. Breathe with it. I'm doing this with you. I'm here with you. You can do this for another 10 breaths. I know you can. Stay with me. Sighing your breath out is really cleansing. And actually, I find it pretty therapeutic. If no one's around, you can make it a little bit louder if you like. So let's breathe in together. Helps when no one else is around. All right, we got 3 more breaths here. 2 and 1. Beautiful. Now, if you need to take a break from this pose, you're more than welcome to place one hand in front of you and one hand behind you and come to sit on the buttocks. And then you just want to give your legs a little bit of a shake, okay? Otherwise, we're going to meet at the top of our mats in a forward fold, an Uttanasana pose. We're going to have our feet about hip-width distance apart. Allow for there to be a slight bend in the knees. I always like that for the energy and information flow to move through the body. Becoming conscious of your feet, spread your toes out wide and root and ground down through the feet. All right, we want to feel super strong in the legs. Opposite hand to opposite elbow, creating almost like a box shape with the elbows. Very important that the neck is completely relaxed and that the shoulders are relaxed. It's almost as if we're playing with gravity here. Gently rocking from side to side. And then just allowing the body to hang in the middle. It's totally okay if your chest is touching your thighs. Just soften here. This is called Ragdoll Pose, and I'm pretty sure you figured out why. There's this beautiful thing that happens here where you're aware of feeling stable and strong, but there's this like surrender feeling, softening towards the ground in this heaviness. Couple more breaths here. If you would like to stretch out the hamstrings, you're more than welcome to start to straighten one leg or straighten the other. And perhaps you want to plant your palms flat, really getting into those hips and the hamstrings, almost energetically opening the hips up towards the sky. Remember the breath. Always remember the breath. Always come back to the breath. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Gently come back down onto your mat, and we find ourselves sitting on our heels, taking a moment, checking in. How are you feeling? All right, so we're going to move into our next pose now. Shoelace Pose. It's one of my favorite postures actually, and I really find it quite amazing for the hips. So what we want to start to do is we want to create a triangle with the left knee, and if possible, try and get that left foot as close towards the right buttock as you can. All right, it just helps that stabilization and almost squaring off of the hips. If the left foot is too far out, your pose might not work too well. Okay, if you need a pillow to support your buttocks, please do so. If you need a pillow to support your knees, please do so. What we want to focus on is we want to focus on stacking the right knee directly on top of the left. For a lot of people, there's going to be a gap here. Don't stress, use the pillow, or just meet yourself in this pose. This works perfectly. For the rest of us, we can stack the right knee onto the left. All right. Get a little bit of a shake going there, see how it feels. Now you have a couple of options in this pose. You're more than welcome to fold forward, just placing your hands on the ground, or you can take archer arms, where you bring your right elbow up and you bring your left fingertips to meet your right fingertips, and they clasp in a beautiful relationship, drawing that right shoulder back and down, and then pressing the head into that right arm. Then you're more than welcome to fold over, trying to bring your right elbow onto the mat. Or if the body feels like it needs a little bit of a twist, placing the left arm down and then just reaching like a beautiful rainbow over the head, stretching. Now, the most important thing is that we keep this left hip and this left bum cheek grounded into the floor. Reaching, extending. If you can bring that left elbow down, please do so. And then watch the right shoulder as we draw it back and down. Coming back to that breath. Stay with it. Slowly coming out of it. All right. From here, we're going to move into a gentle supine twist. This time we're going to lift that right knee up towards the sky, placing the right hand behind you, reaching the left fingertips all the way up, and then we're going to bend the left elbow and hook it onto the right knee. And when you find that hook, it's almost like an anchor that allows you to take your spinal twist a little deeper. And when you're doing spinal twists, I want you to imagine a dishcloth rinsing out itself with the dirty water. So we're rinsing out the dirty energy. Let's put it that way. Breathing deep. Watch your shoulders. Watch your spine. Stay with it. For those that would like a little bit extra, take a bind here. You can do it. Come on. Take a bind. Feels good. For 3, for 2, for 1. Now we don't just slingshot out of these poses. We come out of them carefully. All right. Oh, feels wonderful. We're going to do that on the other side. So we're just going to swap the legs around, placing the left knee on top of the right. Remember, if a pillow is needed, a pillow is needed. All good. Otherwise, we stack the left knee directly on top of the right knee. Now remember your options. Your options are either a forward fold, arch your arms, or we take that gorgeous side twist. Pretending that your left arm is a rainbow, reaching all the way over. And now watch, this hip lifted just a little bit. I'm conscious enough that I bring it down. So I really want you guys to be conscious of how your body responds to each pose. Expand, soften, stretch, release, let go. 3, 2, 1. Very slowly we come back up to center. We're going to lift the left knee, getting ready for our twist. Bring the right arm all the way up, plant the left hand behind you, and then bring the right elbow to hook onto the left. And then we take that gorgeous twist. Now remember, we always want to notice what's happening on each side. Is there a difference? Is there a tightness that wasn't there on the right? Just be aware, just be conscious. And then for those of you that took the bind on the other side, definitely take the bind on this side. And just a word of advice, when we do find ourselves in binds, sometimes our muscles and our arms can go there, but once again, there's kind of an overcompensation. So there might be a slouching or a twist. Don't do a bind because your ego is telling you to do a bind. Do a bind because it feels right for your body, all right? Oftentimes the ego comes up the most on a yoga mat, I find. It's quite interesting. It's like our biggest teacher. For 3, for 2, and for 1, gently come out of that. Okay, gorgeous. We're going to extend the legs out in front of us, and then just giving them a little bit of a shake, a little bit of a massage. We've got 1 round of Paschimottanasana, that's a forward fold. Now, for some yogis, I'll remember in my yoga teacher training, they said that you're only a real yogi when you can bite your toenails, and that's super disgusting, but I want you guys to kind of see that as your aim, all right? Reaching towards your toenails. Inhale, arms come up. Exhale, wherever your hands land, they land, whether it's on your ankles or your knees or your thighs. And I want you to lengthen through the spine, all right? Softening here. Perhaps you can bring the knees to the head to the knees. If that's not available, watch the rounding of the spine. Rather, stay further up and have a long, lengthened spine than get all the way to the knees and you're super bunched up. Holding here, breathing here. Give the feet a little bit of love. This is your time to nurture. This is your time to take care and do what you need to do. For 3, for 2, for 1, tucking the chin, using your hands as leverage and support to roll up through the spine, and then just give the whole body little bit of a shake, some intuitive whatever movement is what I call this. Okay, we're going to make our way onto our backs now. You're more than welcome once again to use a pillow to support your head, to support your spine, whatever feels good. So we're going to bump our bum a little bit forward and then gently roll back, bringing the knees in towards the chest, coming into a 90-degree angle. We're then going to flex both feet, and I'm going to bring the right foot onto the top of the left thigh into a figure 4-like shape. Keeping that left foot flexed, thread the hands through the legs and then clasp them at the back of the left thigh, and then gently start to draw the left knee towards you as you press the right elbow into the right thigh. Keeping the back flat on the mat, keeping yourself present here. Three, 2, 1. Release the hands, bring them into a capital T-like shape. Then I want you to wrap your right leg around the left, like we're tying a knot. If this isn't available, simply bring your knees together, bent, okay? But if you can take these Garudasana legs, eagle legs, bump the hips over to the right, and then drop the knees over towards the left-hand side. Keeping that arms in a capital T-like shape, grounding through each shoulder. This is just an extension of a twist. So whatever feels good for you in taking these lying down twists, find what works for your body. For 3, for 2, for 1. Slowly start to bring the knees in. You have to engage those lower abdominals just a smidgen. And then you can use your arms, or you don't have to unhook the legs. Flex the feet. Bring the left foot onto the top of the right thigh. Thread the hands through the hole between the legs. Clasp the fingertips at the back of the right thigh. Press the left elbow into the left thigh, and then begin to draw that right knee in towards you. Wonderful stretch. I love this. Figure 4 standing and figure 4 lying down. And if you struggle with the balance of figure 4 when you're standing or your one-legged chair, try this first. You get the same benefits. You're not having to challenge yourself with the balance. Go deeper. Get curious. Beautiful. From here, we gently release the clasp of the hands, extend the fingertips alongside the body, and remember, either knees together or wrap that leg all the way around, coming into that twist, and then bumping the knees over to the right-hand side. Your gaze can either be forwards or to the left, or whatever actually works, as long as your neck isn't straining too much. That's the most important part. And when we find ourselves in our twists, it's really a deep cleanse for the body. Focus on what you need to cleanse. With each exhale, there's a purification that takes place here. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly bring the knees back up to center, and then unravel if you would like. And then we're going to bring the knees in towards the body and just wrap the arms around the legs and give yourself a really nice tight squeeze. Beautiful. We're finding ourselves in our final Shavasana now, extending the arms and legs out wide. Use a pillow underneath your bum, underneath your legs. Perhaps you want to hold onto it like a teddy bear. Whatever feels amazing, do that. So we find ourselves in our sweet, blissful Shavasana. I sometimes joke that this is the only reason why I do yoga. It just feels so good to just allow the body to just surrender. Remembering that this is your practice. Maybe you want to play something beautiful in the background. Maybe you want to say some affirmations. Maybe you want to visualize here. What comes to mind? I love visualizing in Shavasana because I feel like my chakras are aligned, I feel like I'm open, I feel like I'm receptive. So I just begin to have a conversation with future self, Sam. The breath is long and steady. You are totally relaxed. You're home, you're safe. And you just showed up for a beautiful yin practice. I'm proud of you. Thank you for joining me. If you would like an extended Shavasana, I highly recommend that. You can simply close the video now or come back to it. But for the rest of us, we're going to slowly make our way out. Gently bringing some movement to the fingers and the toes. Maybe moving the jaw from right to left, scrunching up the nose like a little rabbit. And then wriggling the ankles. Opportunity to roll over onto your right hand side, bringing the knees in towards the chest. Just feeling that last moment of kind of cradling yourself here, supporting yourself, holding space for yourself. And then just like an animal comes out of winter into the springtime, we roll up. Oh, that felt good. I hope you guys enjoyed this practice. Let's just collect the energy around us. Inhale, reach the arms up towards the sky. Exhale, hands to hearts. Namaste. Thank you for joining me.